position. And my observation is that Russia, as long as Georgia doesn't become a bulwark or like maybe a little dagger, Russia would probably just leave it alone. But how do you see what the Russian approach towards the development in the Caucasus is?
What the Russians, if you're talking about official Moscow, the government, the officials there, what they want at the present moment in time in this part of the Southern Caucasus is peace and quiet. They do not want another crisis on their hands, on their borders. They certainly don't want a color revolution in Georgia. They would absolutely not want to see Saakashvili or anybody associated with Saakashvili coming back into power. Bear in mind that Putin, at a personal level, dislikes Saakashvili intensely. I mean, there is a kind of personal animus as well. But they absolutely want to see a stable, peaceful situation. They are, I think, content with the situation that exists at the moment. And going back to the other question, if there was an attempted color revolution in Georgia, um, they would prefer that that never happened. They would not particularly want to become involved in Georgian domestic affairs because that's another distraction. They've got all kinds of things to worry about with the war in Ukraine and all of the rest. But if it happens, I think they will be there. I think they will be doing whatever they can to try to prevent that kind of regime coming back. Um, I cannot imagine they will send the army in or they will interfere directly or do anything of that kind. But they will provide advice to the government, they will provide intelligence to the government, they will do everything they possibly can at that kind of level, mostly to keep the situation stable, not to drag Georgia into the Russian orbit. I don't think that is a kind of priority with the authorities in Moscow at this time. Now, there is another dimension to this, which is one that I think people who are not familiar with Russia probably find very difficult to understand, which is that Russians actually collectively do think about and do care about Georgia. It is very difficult for outsiders to understand what a profound influence Georgia has culturally in Russia. As a person who came to Russia from the West, I was astounded by it. But Georgian influence at many levels is very, very ubiquitous within Russian society. It's also very entwined in their history. And, going all the way back to the Napoleonic Wars, one of their leading generals, for example, who fought against Napoleon and who was at Borodino, was a Georgian. And there's lots of other Georgians who are part of their history, and they
Stalin.
are aware of this. Yeah. So it's a country that ordinary Russians do take an interest in. And they also, at a sort of emotional level, would not want it to drift away and become a hostile country to themselves. It would be like, you know, a, a rejection, if you like, of a culture that has influenced Russian culture in many very profound ways.
I need to ask you a follow-up question, and